Hello, and welcome to the No Wrong Notes podcast, a show hosted by me, Veronica Kokos, holistic voice teacher and singer just like you. Grab a cup of tea, relax, and sit back as we discuss all things singing technique, mindset tips, and more so you can show up as the most confident and creative singer you can be. Hi friends, and welcome to another episode of No Wrong Notes. How are we doing this week, y'all? I hope that you guys are hanging in there. Things have been kind of crazy over here. We bought a house in March, and we actually just moved into our new house. So exciting times. So the studio has officially moved, and we're really excited about it. We love this new house. Even though things are really crazy out there in the world right now, we're really excited about it. So yeah, I hope that you guys are doing well. This week's episode is going to be a fly by the seat of my pants kind of episode because I've got the topic that I want to talk about in mind, but I have no script or outline. So we are just winging it, y'all. We are flying by the seat of our pants. And honestly, I was going to record a different kind of episode this week, but this theme has come up in the studio lately as life gets crazy as summer is approaching and maybe schedules are changing. I mean, we're still in April, but I know that some of my younger students, especially, schedules are changing. We're looking forward towards summer, and this topic has been on my mind. So I was like, you know what? Why not hop on the mic and chat about it, which is how to stay consistent with your singing when life gets crazy, when maybe you're traveling a lot, when maybe you don't have a lot of time to practice, or even just thinking about the larger picture, the larger world. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by what's going on in the world right now and you just don't have the energy. You're finding it really hard to even just go about your day normally, right? So I wanted to talk about how to find some consistency in the chaos. And the first thing that I'll say here is to take the pressure off of yourself. Take the pressure off of yourself to stick with the same schedule, the same practice schedule that you've had. Understand that, and you guys probably know this, but understand that we go through different seasons of life. I've talked about this before, where with each different season, you've got to adjust, you've got to change things up. And I think that is part of the point when we move through different seasons of life. It's to go with the flow, adapting your life and adapting what's going on in your life to what life is throwing at you, right? I feel like you either move with the current, you go with the flow, or you have a really hard time swimming against the current. So I want to encourage you not to swim against the current when it comes to your singing, especially if you're in a busy period of life. Don't swim against the current. Go with the flow. See what feels right to you. And really try not to shame yourself. If you find that you hardly have any time to practice or sing at all, please don't shame yourself. Okay, this is singing. Okay, I love singing. Obviously, this is what I do for a living. But it's just one part of life, you guys. It's not the whole enchilada, and we shouldn't make it the whole enchilada. So don't take the pressure off of yourself. Go with the flow. Be kind to yourself. On a practical level, if you really want to keep singing even through these busy periods of life, the first thing that I would do is take an honest look at your schedule. So taking an honest look at the week ahead and saying, okay, if I've got maybe rehearsal for my school musical or rehearsal for my community musical on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings, when am I going to fit in time to practice? I've got school, I've got college, I've got classes, I've got work, okay? How am I going to fit my practice time in? Look at your schedule and see what little pockets of time you have, okay? I'm not saying that we all have the most free time in the world, especially if your schedule is crazy. But chances are there are little pockets of time throughout the week. even if that time is when you're driving to rehearsal. So let's say you get off work and you're going to rehearsal for your community musical and you're like, this is the time that I have to practice. This 15, 20, 30-minute drive is all the time that I have to practice. Utilize that then. I know that for my students, I've created little warm-up videos in our warm-up library where students can literally put those on in the car and sing along with them, warming up their voice. They get to work on their voice when they're multitasking. And I'm not saying, of course, like to drive, engage in distracted driving. I'm certainly not saying that, pay attention to the road. But yeah, so utilizing these little pockets of time where, okay, hey, I get off work at 5 and rehearsal's at 5:30, it's at 6 or something like that. I've got some time when I'm driving to rehearsal to do this, to practice. So it's finding those little pockets of time and figuring out, okay, this is when I can fit this in. Understanding that it's like, okay, this is all the time that I have this week and being okay with it, okay? Maybe in another time of year, maybe last year, maybe 6 months ago, you had an hour of practice time 3 times a week. Like you were able to practice for that long 3 times a week. Or maybe 2 months ago, you were able to practice 3 times a week for 20 minutes at home, okay? But life has changed. You've got to adapt your practice to these life changes. The next thing that I'll say is that practice doesn't have to look like singing scales or doing your exercises that you normally do. Do I recommend that you warm up your voice? Yes, I will always recommend that you warm up your voice. Even if it's like little lip trills here and there, like doing something like that. Yes, I'm always an advocate for warming up your voice, but practice doesn't have to be just singing scales and working on the songs that you work on. Let's say you are on vacation, okay? Let's say you are traveling and having fun and you're like, man, I still want to work on my voice. I still want to sing in the meantime. Just sing whenever you feel like it. Why not? For example, let's say you're on vacation and you have the opportunity to sing karaoke, singing karaoke with your family, singing it in public somewhere. That can be your singing time. And plus that's a lot of fun too. Karaoke is a lot of fun. Or maybe you're on a road trip. Maybe you guys are road tripping around and, you put on some music and just sing at the top of your lungs. That, obviously, it doesn't sound like very formal practice, but it's still using your voice. You're still using your voice to sing, okay? It's still a worthwhile activity to engage in. So, practice doesn't have to look like sitting in a room and singing scales and singing along with your songs. It doesn't have to look like that. It could just look like using your voice in other ways, in these other ways that I just mentioned, like singing at karaoke or singing in the car as you're road tripping. The third thing that I'll say, and this is speaking more to the people that are really finding it hard to be motivated in this season of life, like maybe, like I said in the beginning, maybe the chaos of the world is really getting to you and you're just feeling like, ugh, I don't want to sing at all. I really don't want to sing, but then I kind of want to sing because I know it's good for me. You're kind of caught in this conflict of what do I do? How do I get the motivation to do this when there's just so much going on out there? And this is where, obviously the answer is going to be different for everybody. I would say if you're feeling really, really depressed and anxious, meeting with a counselor, therapist is going to be your best bet. Or if you can't afford a therapist or a counselor, of course, group therapy is always an option. I know they have that here in Richmond at, an affordable rate. But for some of us, all we can afford is time spent writing in our journal, writing out what we feel, kind of talking it out with ourselves. Like I said, if you're feeling really depressed and anxious, process what's going on mentally first. I think that is really, really important. On the singing side of things, I would really encourage you to go back to what makes singing fun. Okay, so why do you sing? What makes it interesting for you? Think of the moments that have really been fun for you in singing. Or maybe for me, for example, I think back to when I was in middle school, I think. And this was like early mid 2000s, and Shakira's Hips Don't Lie came on the radio, and as soon as I heard that song, I loved it. I was like obsessed with it, and I would like sing along with it, dance along to it in my room. It was just like such a fun thing for me. And honestly, a lot of my early musical experiences were listening to music in my room, dancing along with the radio. I took dance classes, and so I really liked dancing. And so I would do that. It was just like a fun thing for me. And then that dancing turned into singing along. And that was really what got me into singing. I had such a good time with that experience. And so, again, I would go back to your why. Why do you sing? What makes singing so interesting for you? Thinking about those experiences, those earlier experiences, where maybe you had just the best time singing and using your voice, and maybe even singing that song. Like for me, it was Hips Don't Lie. Maybe if I'm feeling a lack of motivation or I'm feeling really listless, I'll put on a really fun song and sing along to it, or hum along to it. If you don't feel like singing, you can always hum along to the songs that really pump you up, that get you excited to sing and listen to music. So again, I would go back to those formative experiences, or those experiences you've had with music or singing. Again, it doesn't even have to be singing related. I just mentioned how I was dancing along to this kind of music. But going back to those formative experiences and sort of rediscovering why you sing and what makes singing so fun for you. I think starting from that place is a lot easier place to start from than forcing yourself to practice, I think if you try to white knuckle it and say, okay, I'm going to practice for 10 minutes today, and that's what I'm going to do, it's really hard to do that and be consistent with that and stick with that, especially if the mental health aspect is playing such a strong part in it. So yeah. All right, and these are just my thoughts. Like I said, with all of this, I think what is probably the most important thing that I said in this episode was to go with the flow of life. Don't beat yourself up if your singing rituals, if your singing practice, if your singing in general looks a little bit different from season to season in your life. Don't beat yourself up about it. Like I said, it's just singing. Singing is important. It can be healing. It does so many things for us, but again, it's not the whole enchilada, okay? And you shouldn't have to beat yourself up for the whole enchilada. All right. That is all I've got for you guys this week. I hope that this gives you some encouragement for those of you that might be heading into a busier season of life. Enjoy your life. Enjoy what's going on for you. Go with the flow. Don't swim against the current, and adapt your practice and your singing to the season of life that you're in. All right, that's what I've got for you guys this week. If you want to follow along for more singing content, you can always follow me on social media. That is all linked in the show description. If you want to work with me, I do offer free 30-minute trial lessons, but I also offer my Curious Singer membership, which is a lower cost way of working with me, where you get feedback on your singing on your own time. So be sure to check that out. That's linked in the show description. And if you liked this episode, I would love it if you could leave a 5-star rating and review. And in the meantime, happy singing, y'all.